Alright, so you've bought a VA Subaru WRX with the supposedly new improved FA20 engine, much better than the old EJs, and you're doing some sick nasty pulls and you start to hear a ticking noise. Suddenly your car stops accelerating, your tick's gotten a whole lot louder, your Subaru's done what every Subaru does and it's blown up, right? And now the internet will tell you it's your fault and that it's going to be at least 10K to fix it. That's at least half the value of the car now, and that's ridiculous, right? I mean, look at these prices on the internet. But what if you could swap in an engine for less than 3K? And then what if that engine was actually an upgrade? You can put the 2.4 liter from the new WRX, and what if you could keep all your bolt-ons that you've already got? You don't even have to open up the engine. Is that really possible? So my goal with this engine swap was simple. Take out my working FA20 with 100,000 miles and put in an FA24 for less than what my FA20 is worth. Upgrade the engine and make a profit. So there's a swap document from Robert Castano and it tells you how to FA24 swap the VA WRX. And it's a really great document. It was super helpful, and without the document I wouldn't have even tried this. Document's great, but it needs the I Build Race Cars swap kit, which is $1,500 and you can't buy it, and it needs you to put in your FA20 cams into the FA24. So this, taking the cams out of the FA20 will ruin the plan for selling the FA20. You can't sell the engine for any real value easily without the cams. So I got to keep the FA24 sealed. FA24 with only FA24 internals. The cams in the service manual have the same specs, right? It can't be that different. It's got to work. Everything else just bolts on, so I don't see any problems. So first thing we're going to do is prove that the FA20 runs just fine. 105,000 miles, full bolt-on E85, works just fine. In this series, we'll go through the swap process. This first video, we'll be pulling the FA20 out. Next video, we'll be putting the FA24 in. And then the last video, we'll make the FA24 work and do a cost breakdown. The swap is supported by North American Motorsports Research and their Atlas program. It's a free tuning software. You don't even need to have any special OBD2 adapters. You can use a $60 OBD Link EX and tune your car, or you can use a Tactrix cable, which many people have, and tune your car that way. So the swap works. I've been driving it for a little under 2,000 miles now, and it's great. About 2 months ago, I started looking on car-part.com for an FA24 just to look at the local junkyard prices. And I was shocked, and they were so cheap, like really cheap. I mean, compared to an FA20, FA20s were like 5K every time I looked at them used on eBay or on local junkyards. And then I go and I see this FA24 for less than half that. It's nuts. So a couple of days later, I drove 4 hours to buy an FA24 from a 2022 Ascent from LKQ. The thing had 50,000 miles and it was a little under $2,000 plus tax plus a $100 core charge, which I can't give a core to. So that was it. That's my new block. My dad helped me stuff it into my back seat and then I drove home. The Ascents, when I was looking, had the cheapest long blocks by a good margin. The FA24 is also in the Legacy and the Forester, I think. But the Ascents were the cheapest because they've been out the longest and nobody wants engine blocks out of them. As far as I know, it's the same block, more or less. Like, there's a couple little differences, but I ended up doing the head studs in it just because the engine was already out. And I used the 2022 WRX service manual to help me, and everything was basically the same. The Ascent block matched the manual WRX like head cam carrier bolt pattern, so that's it. It just matched the MT. There's an extra coolant pipe for the CVT cooler on the hard lines outside the block and on the like transfer pipe over the block, and that's it. You just loop them back together to each other and it's easy. So with the engine purchased and finally home, I got my NT Motorsports swap kit and it was time to pull the engine. So here we go. I'm gonna have to get that ground strap. Alright, what I want to do now is take off the radiator, give us more room for that hose specifically and just the turbo outlet. So you take off this pipe, it's 2 hose clamps, you just squeeze them and pull it off. They use vice grips to squeeze them. And then there's another one down there, just like the top one. So we'll go back under the car and undo that one. Okay, this one's off. This one's off. This ground strap was attached to our J-pipe, so we don't have to take it off with that other one. I use these vice grips to get the plugs off, or the clamps off, and then now we're gonna jiggle it. And you twist it to like break the tension off the pipe. And then try not to smack your rear O2 around. It will eventually come out. Bro. Oh. Alright, well, be careful. It might be wet. All done. Alright, now we're going to get these two radiator brackets. And then we can lift out the radiator. She's floppy. Alright, one clip out. Oh, there's a harness down here. Alright, I gotta go underneath. So we have this harness and then the same thing on the other side, holding her in. These harnesses are kind of a pain. What I did was just take the pliers and pinch the top. Now the other side. So we should be able to just pull it out. Ooh, it's dirty. Look, all them leaves. Alright, now what I'm doing is disconnecting the fuel lines from the high pressure fuel pump and taking off all the foam. Alright, now I'm thinking I'm going to get the bell housing bolts out of the transmission. They're 14 mil bolts. I had to find my 14. Alright, well, I actually found it was easier to get that one from the top with the breaker bar, so I'm going to do that for the rest of those bottom bell housing bolts. Alright, now we got to take off our brake booster, because I still want to do those bottom bell housing bolts, but there's all kinds of stuff in the way. So we'll take off the brake booster, take off the starter right there, and then get to those bolts. Okay, I'm trying to get this starter bolt off down here, but I can't get my wrench in it. I'm going to take off these heater lines, those two right in front of you, and see if that helps. Alright, getting the starter out now. It was kind of a pain. The bolts were stuck, so I took the bolts out and I pulled the starter out, all excited I did it, and then I forgot to do the wiring harness connectors. So I had to kind of grab it at the same time and take those off, and one of them was stuck. But we got it. Alright, now I'm going to take off the AC compressor. So to do that, we're going to have to undo this idler pulley. I'm going to take off the belt, and then we can take off the compressor. We'll probably end up doing all this wiring at the same time. Alright, I decided to undo the alternator harness first, since it's got to change anyway, and it was fighting me. And now I'm doing the serpentine belt. Yeah. You tighten it, you go clockwise. right there on the back side of the alternator. You can see it, the brown thing. We gotta get that off, and then the alternator harness will come off. Now we're gonna take off the throttle, because it's kind of in the way of our little bolt down there for the air compressor. So this one's the FA24 throttle body. You can see it's smooth. The coolant pipes are a little bit different, and the plug here comes out the side instead of out the front. I took the air conditioning lines off, and then I decided to do the crank pulley since I noticed it. Taking it off the FA24 was a huge pain, and I broke 2 sockets, so I'm trying to do it now while I'm thinking about it. And now that the starter is off, I remembered that I had to do the bell housing bolts. 2 bolts on the bottom, or maybe just 1. It was such a pain to get to because it was just tight. And there wasn't enough space for a socket, which I'm trying to get around it now, but it didn't work. So I had to use a wrench, and then I had to put the jack handle on top of the wrench. Okay, we got the bell housing bolts out of this side. It's a huge pain. Now we're going to do the wiring harness, and I think it can come out. Alright, and then next what I end up doing is going around the engine and unplugging every single wiring harness. I chose to do this while I was in the car. I would recommend just pulling the engine, so unplug the body harness by the transmission, the big brown one, and then dealing with it all outside of the car, because everything is in like an annoying spot, and then you have to reach down deep in the car, and it's just not a good way to do it. So pull the engine, then pull the harness. Okay, here's how to undo the harness on a 15 plus WRX coil pack, because I couldn't figure out how to do it. So you see on the side the metal piece on both sides, so you don't necessarily just lift up on that. You go on the side and you put your screwdriver underneath that and twist it up, and then you have one side dismounted. See? Right, and then you go and you do it on the other side. Like that, and then you can gently wiggle it off. Now it's off. Alright, we got all our ignition coils out. I think now's a good time to take off the manifold and get all the harnesses off with the actual block. Alright, so for your manifold on the IBR kit, you got 3 of these 12s on either side, and then a whole bunch of vacuum hoses, which shouldn't be too bad. And now for the harness, we're gonna have this throttle body, all the cam controls here on the other side too. There's stuff on the back down here, and then whatever's on the actual block, and we'll get to the rest as we get to it. Alright, and one fun part with the IBR kit is that your fuel line is in the way of the bolt. High pressure fuel line. So we're going to close our eyes and look away as we loosen this up. Alright, no fuel spread this time. And then now we can get to that bolt. So we'll do that one first, and I'll do the rest. get rid of that. I want to get rid of this foam. We got all the harness over here, and then the big fat harness over there into the evap, the injectors, and those things again. So we do need to undo the injectors, so we got to take this film off. Okay, we got our evap off. We have access to almost everything now. So we got to get off our coolant temp sensor, fuel pressure sensor, fuel injectors on that side, evap right in front of you, and the blue and the black, and all the cam stuff, and the main thing back here maybe. Alright, we got all the harness stuff undone, and then there's some of it I can't really get to, or don't want to, so I just undid the main harness. We should be able to pull her out. You can see I got all the bell housing bolts out, and there's already a little gap between the trans and the engine. So I had to set up the hoist and then set up the bolts. I'm thinking this hole and this hole right there. That way we got both sides of the engine or something like that. Okay, we got the hoist in place. You can see here, and then I had to move the hood up. So this is the default location for the hood strut, but they have another drilled and tapped hole right under it. So if you take off the little thing to do that, you take a screwdriver and you put it in the top there, and then just twist, and it pops out, and then you can just pull on the strut, and it comes off this little nub. And then a 12 mil, you can undo the nub and put it in the bottom hole, and then do it on both sides. And then you can have the strut in the, like, push the hood up, and then it'll support it in the pushed up position. And then while I was doing that, I used the hoist plus this dirt bike ramp on the engine block to help me hold up the hood. Okay, our hoist is all set up. You can see I went to that bolt there, and then I got an M10 washer from Lowe's, and this is an M10 grade 8 bolt, and just stuck it through there where the AC compressor was. And then on the back of the engine, same thing, M10 washer, and then a 3/4 washer. I have two of them stacked on top of each other. And then the load leveler. I think we're ready to go. I'm gonna grab the tire spoon so we can pry the transmission. Send it. Alright, we got the hoist set up. I'm tensioning up the block, and then I've got a tire spoon, and I'm gonna go pry the little gap that you saw in one of the previous clips, try and separate the transmission and the engine. Yeah. Oh. It'd be nice if there wasn't coolant all over the floor. Alright, we gotta take the turbo and headers off so it fits in the crate. I thought the crate would be big enough, but I'm stupid and wrong. But it shouldn't be too bad. I got the turbo and headers off, and now I'm taking the coolant hard lines off the block. You can see with the paper towel roll I made a mess. And that's it for pulling the FA20 out of the VA. The next video will be prepping the FA24 block to go into the VA, and we'll be talking about the swap kit and tunes and everything that you need. Thank you so much for watching this. I know the video is bad, I know the audio is bad, and it's probably pretty boring. I'd appreciate any comments or likes. Any questions you have about the VA FA24 swap, let me know. Like I said, I can help you with the swap. I can do tunes for you so you can have the 100% sealed long block. Just go grab an S-Cent long block from a junkyard for 2,000 bucks and throw it in your VA if you blow up or you just want an upgrade for not a bad price. So yeah, thank you guys.